Hello, friends, and welcome back. Today is a very exciting day because today is the day we are starting seeds officially for the 2026 growing year. So come along and I will show you one of the ways I will be starting my onions and some other things today. Here is my little germination test setup. So you can see there's little sprouts coming up. Most of these are onion seeds or leek seeds. I have a little thing of celeriac here that I'm germination testing that I got in a seed swap. It's kind of older seed and I just wanted to see what I was going to get there. Other than the celeriac, these are from seed that I saved myself. So these are actually from onions that grew in my garden for 2 years because onions are biennial, meaning they don't actually produce seed until their second year. The first year they grow that bulb, which is what we want them for. So we normally will pull them in that first year. But if you leave them in the garden and you live somewhere where they can survive the winter, which I am in about a zone 3-4 in Alberta in Canada. We live pretty north and it is pretty cold in the winter here, and these onions were unprotected out in my garden and just fine. So you can see I had 2 different kinds of onions here. This is a red onion and this is a yellow onion. Both of these are storage varieties, and I had some pretty good germination considering what I had the first time. This is my second batch that I sowed seeds on, and I sowed twice as much. So this had 10 seeds and I have 4 there. So that is 20%, or sorry, 40% germination. I'm really good at math. That's okay. You don't have to be good at math to garden. Now this was seed I saved from leeks I grew. Not as good a germination there, but they can take a while to come up. But considering this is my second sowing in this pot, and out of 15 seeds that I've now planted, I have nothing happening. Not looking good. These are, I think there's 7 I counted in here, so that's 70% germination, and I'm really happy with that. I learned that it is hard to save onion seed, and I'm not sure what the trick is, clearly, because we have very mixed bag going on here, but very happy to see that I have 70% there. There are, you might have to take my word for it, but there are little teeny celeriac seeds. I don't know if you can see that little guy right there. It looks like it's starting to crack the seed hull open and swell, and that there's might be a little something happening at the end where the sprout is going to emerge. So hopefully that means that we are going to have something happen in here. This is my first go of the celeriac seed germination testing. So this next little pot, I have all leeks going on in here. So this one had 100% germination. Looks like these 2 had about 60% germination in there. And then these were seeds that I got in a seed swap, and it looked like it was somebody had saved their own leek seeds. And we had, so far, have had the same germination success, which is none. So at least I'm not alone in my struggle there, I guess. These are from old purchase seed. So I have some seed here from 2024. These ones were from 2024. And then 2024, and this one was 2025. And it's looking like we had about 40 to 60% germination on these as well, except this one we only had 10. There's only 1 up in there so far. And so I did this because, let me flip my camera around and I'll tell you. Okay, let's talk about why I decided to do some germination testing, because this isn't something that I always do. I'm not going to do this, I don't think, with any other seeds this year. Onions tend to have a big drop in their germination rate quite quickly compared to a lot of other seed varieties. So it's best to have fresh seed. Fresh seed's always going to do the best with onions, but seeds are getting really, really expensive, and it's always cheaper to buy in bulk. So a couple years ago, I bought onion seeds in bulk and leek seeds, and am now kind of experimenting to see what I can get away with in doing that. But I wanted to have an idea of what the germination rate was going to be before planting, because I didn't want to be wasting a whole bunch of soil doing my soil blocks if I wasn't going to have any seeds come up. It takes a lot of time, and I wanted to, kind of have an idea of what to expect. So this tells me that how I think I want to go forward with this. I haven't quite decided. I might even do a combination of the two ideas that I have. So my first idea that I might do, and probably I'm gonna do, is sow either 1 or 2 seeds, depending on what my germination test told me, in the micro soil blocks, the little teeny tiny itty bittiest ones. And then if I need to separate out a couple seedlings, it's only the 2, and I will just pot them up into the bigger, I think they're 1.5 inch cubes, because I only want to be growing 1 onion per soil block, like the bigger ones that I grow my onions out in. I want to do just 1 per soil block this year and see if that will save me some time in transplanting, because that is one of my least favorite garden chores, is transplanting the onions, because it takes forever to detangle all the little tiny roots from each other. So I feel like just planting 1 soil block per onion will go a lot faster. Last year it took me 6 hours to plant my 3 trays of onions, and I don't want to do that again, even though my onions did really, really well. We're going to see if we can improve on this year. So that is option number 1. My second idea is to just kind of broad sow the seeds, and I think that's what I am going to do with the ones that had really low germination or no germination, is in just a little shallow container with some soil in it. Just sow a whole bunch of seeds, maybe even all of the seeds that I have, and see what happens, if any come up. And if not, then I'll just compost that and it's fine. But maybe something will germinate, just because out of the 10 or 5 seeds that I planted of those, nothing really happened. That doesn't mean that the whole batch will have 0% germination. So I think I will do that with those ones. But I think the ones that had good germination, I'm going to just go for it in my micro soil blocks. I think that is my plan. I knew that I wanted to spend my time this day on focusing on getting all these soil blocks made, and it did take a long time. So I took a freezer meal out and bulked it out with some extra pumpkin. So it's a chorizo chili with pumpkin, and I took that out of my freezer, put it in my Instant Pot on slow cooker, and supper was ready for me when I was all done this project. So now we're downstairs in my seed starting area. This is my bin of pre-moistened soil that I have mixed some amendments into and allowed everything to rehydrate before starting this project. This is the soil that I'm using, and I've added some chicken manure pellets and some vermicompost. Like I said, I'm going to be starting these seeds in soil blocks. And so here are the things that I use for making my soil blocks. This is just a little wash tub. I think I got it at like the dollar store years ago. It's for doing your dishes when you're camping. This is an old sour cream container. And then I made this thing out of some hardware cloth and some black Gorilla Tape on any sharp edges, and I just made it to slide onto my wash tub. Not fancy, not pretty, but this helps to sift out any of the lumps in my potting soil. So I'm just going to use my sour cream container to scoop my pre-moistened soil and amendments onto my fancy soil sifter. and just sift that into my little wash bin until I feel like I have enough. And because I am making the micro blocks today, I don't want to fill this as full as it can be. I want to be able to push my soil blocker all the way down to the bottom of my container. If I was using my bigger soil blocker, I would probably fill it a little bit fuller. Now we're ready to make some soil blocks. This is my mini soil blocker. I can't remember what the measurements are, but it makes 20 little micro soil blocks. This is just a regular putty knife that you can get at any hardware store for a couple of dollars, and I'll show you how I use that. And then I use cafeteria trays that I ordered online, and they are a much more solid, sturdy plastic than what is conventionally sold to be seed starting trays. I find those to be very, very flimsy and quite disposable. I've had these cafeteria trays for a couple of years now, and they are in the exact same condition as when I bought them, and I'm very happy with them. And they work really well for the soil blocks, but basically you just want something with a flat surface that has a little bit of a lip to hold water if you're going to be doing soil blocks. And here I am moistening our soil, and you want it to be wetter than you think it needs to be, and I'm going to show you here. When you grab a handful of it, quite a bit of water will come out, and it will hold its shape. And that's how you know it's ready to go. So here we go. And basically all I'm doing is just jam-packing as much soil as I can get into these little micro soil blocks. Pushing down on this until it feels heavier than you think it should. And you want to try and keep your little soil blocker relatively clean for this process. That makes things go a lot smoother. So here I am just leveling off the base with my putty knife, because you want those soil blocks to sit level so they're not flopping all over the place on your tray and tipping over, knocking seeds everywhere. And so if I find spots that I think need a little bit more, I will grab a little bit more potting mix to put in there, keeping everything level and making sure all of these are as full as I can get them. And once I'm satisfied with that, I am going to just scrape any excess off of these edges of the soil blocker. Like I say, keeping it clean makes this go a lot smoother. And then I'm just going to push down before I actually release these blocks. And there we have it, 20 little micro soil blocks. So cute. And now I'm just going to do this a whole bunch more times until my tray is full. It's very important, as soon as you are done using your soil blocker, to make sure you clean it off really well and put it somewhere that it can dry properly. Because these are made of metal, they will rust even though it's galvanized. So as soon as you're done, rinse it off or dunk it in a bucket and then set it somewhere to dry. I decided while I was doing this day that I would go ahead and show you guys the soil blocks that I will be potting the micro blocks up into. So this is the bigger size soil blocker, and you can see it has these littler nubs if you just want to plant your seeds right into this size. Or you can change them out and use this insert, which is the exact same size as the micro soil blocks. So when you're potting them up, the little micro soil block just fits right into the top of the bigger soil block, and it makes it really, really quick and easy. So I'm just gonna take these ones out and trade them for the transplanting inserts and make some more soil blocks.
Oh yeah.
So I decided that the 280 micro blocks that I made wasn't enough, and I wanted to start some extra pansies, which also need complete darkness, where a lot of the seeds I was starting need light. And this is how I like to start my tinier seeds. I always start with labeling whatever it is that I'm planting, because I always think I will remember, and then I don't, and then I have no idea what is what. And that makes it really hard to put things where they should go. So today I'm going to be planting 3 different varieties of violas. I know I said pansies earlier, but technically these are violas and pansies, which pansies are violas, but not all violas are pansies. So the varieties that I'm starting are back to black violas, which are a small black viola. And this is a Sweet Friend blend, which came from my friend Ash at Moonglow Gardens. I sent her some pansy seeds, and she collected the seeds off of them. And then the last variety that I'm going to be starting today are a variety that I saved seeds out of pansies that grew in the sidewalk cracks at my Nana's place. So I don't know what she had initially planted and what crossed, but I save seeds out of those pansies, and I plant them every year, and I call them Nana's patio pansies. And they're kind of a mix of different yellows and purples, and some of them have, to me, they look like whiskers in the middle, but wild violets have them, and I wonder if they maybe cross with the wild violets out there, because she had a lot of wild violets at her place. Now that we have everything labeled, let's get some seeds in these soil blocks. So up first is the back to black violas, which are one of my very favorites. This is a little dibber tool that a friend of mine, Maria, sent me, and I love this thing. I use it all the time. I think it's just 3D printed from one of her friends. And then I have just this little crystal bowl, but you can use anything that can hold the seeds, and it just has edges so they won't fall out. I just like it because it's pretty, and this actually was my Nana's. And then I just use my little scooper and grab a few seeds. Some of these seeds are kind of older, so I'm grabbing like 2 or 3 seeds for each soil block and just getting them into the right soil block. These little tiny seeds like to be tricky, so just going slow and taking my time. I don't mind taking a little extra time to start my seeds because this is actually my favorite gardening task, I think, out of all of them. So the last thing I did was just use a little bit of vermiculite to top this off, because you don't need to cover pansy seeds with any soil, but the vermiculite helps so that they stay moist and don't dry out while they're germinating, because that can take a little bit of time. And this is how I decided to plant up the seeds that had no germination. So that was my leek seeds that I saved myself, the leek seeds that I got in a seed swap, and then some older red onion seeds. And what I did was just plant every single seed that I had, and I just basically, like, that whole surface was solid seeds. I'm all excited because I found a little teeny tiny sprout. So I'm glad that I did this, because even though I had 0% germination in the germination test, it's been a little while since I planted these now, and a whole bunch of them have come up. So I planted those seeds just like completely solidly across the surface of that, covered them with a little bit of soil, put these domes on that have a little bit of ventilation holes poked in them, and set them in a dark place. And it took about a week, and now I think I have like 20 some sprouts. So I'm really glad that I took the time to do this. Here's a little update on the seeds that had 0% germination in the germination test. These are the leeks that I saved. I just wanted to show you guys that this was worthwhile and say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.